I can see by my face it looks like it's really sunny outside, but it's not at all. It's just dark in here, and the sun's going down. So.
Oh, yeah. And it does. It really does. It does look like sun coming through, which it almost do. Well, yeah, like I said, I wasn't really thinking about light again. But no, I remember you saying you put thought into what the background was going to be. Like, does that mean there's specific books there that are meant that mean something or that they're significant?
Those books there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there. All the ones there you can see are Watchtower books, Jehovah's Witness books.
Jehovah's Witness books. Okay.
Yeah. So it's because I've known some JW, so I've read an awful lot of their stuff, so I can converse with them. But it's, I mean, I know from that, I know lots of stuff that they don't know about what they used to teach.
Yeah.
If you tell, the reason I got the books was if you go online, you'll find things that they used to teach and they'll say, no, that's not true. That's apostate lies.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can physically show them one of their own books that say it, then it's like they can't actually deny it. But they're just trained so well that anything that goes against what they're currently taught is apostate lies.
Yeah. And that one too, I think was it the White Papers or something like this? Like one of their prophets was a woman named White, I believe.
No, that was
that's not Jehovah's Witness. That's
no. I can't remember which group that is, but yeah, I know the.
You know what I mean? Okay, that's the wrong one. Yeah.
Seventh-day
Adventist? Seventh-day Adventist? No.
I don't know. I don't think it might be, but I don't think it's them because they're very close to being almost like normal Christians, if you see what I mean. Yeah, I know the White thing. Maybe it is the Adventist. I don't know. You're just checking it now?
No, I just trying to.
I'll have a quick check because we need to know.
Yeah.
Just in case. Ellen G. White. Yep, Seventh-day Adventist.
Seventh-day Adventist. Yeah, okay. That was it.
Yeah. No, they were Charles Taze Russell, the person who started it. He never called it Jehovah's Witnesses. He was they were just known as the Bible students then, but he was massively into pyramidology.
Oh, really?
So he started it back in 1874, 1879. But he went to the pyramids. He did all these different measurements, and he proved from the measurements in the pyramids and from some Bible verses that Jesus is coming back in 1914. And so the whole religion was based on the fact that I think it was the end of September the 30th, 1914, Jesus is going to come back.
Right. That was, yeah. Okay. They were the ones that made several predictions. Yeah.
So then on October the 1st, it was like he came back invisibly. And so now what they believe is that Jesus came back in 1914, but he's now in the sky and it's invisible. And it's like, it just does not line up with the Bible. But now Jehovah's Witnesses aren't aware that all this proof, or nearly all this proof, comes from the pyramids.
The proof for the dating, like the time.
Yeah, the dating. Yeah, so because the pyramids were like a real hot topic going back 150 years or so. So yeah, so by using the pyramids and the measurements in the pyramids, all this sort of stuff, and I've got it in the books here, and he's like really, really dogmatic about it. It's 1914, so they've got all these different dates, but the meaning of the dates have since changed. But in 1914, 1915, when it didn't happen, something like 80% or more of the religion left. So they realized it was not real.
But the 20% hung on. Yeah.
And then he died a couple of years later, and there was a power struck, and it was someone called Judge Rutherford took over. And he kind of went along with the same teaching for a while, and then he changed it, then he radically changed it. And he called them Jehovah's Witnesses in early 30s, I think it was, when he coined the phrase. But in the early 30s, he then changed the dates. And then the end was going to come in 1941. And then that didn't happen, of course. And then the end was going to be 1977. And then 1975. And then that didn't happen. And then in one publication, it said the year 2000. And then that didn't happen.
Oh, good.
And yet, unless you speak to an old Jehovah's Witness, they don't know this stuff. they're like, no, it never happened. That's apostate lies. We never said 1975. But I went to a local Kingdom Hall for about a year, and I spoke to a couple of old JWs who remember the 1975 stuff, and I said, so as far as you remember, did they teach that it was going to end in 1975? They're like, oh yeah, absolutely, they taught that. And yet they're still there. I mean, a load of people left when it didn't happen in 75, a load left in the early 40s when it didn't happen. 1925 was another date, but that wasn't the end of the world. That was just when Moses and David and Abraham were all going to come back. So this mansion called Beth Sarim in California, and they had the title deed set up ready so that when Abraham and David, all these other people come back, it'd be given to them. So that's where they were going to live. But until they came back, Judge Rutherford was living there. So Rutherford was looking after this mansion for when the patriarchs come back, and they never came back. So,
oh man!
But again, they don't know this either. They just don't know this stuff.
And that just sounds like it just makes it. Oh, it makes it really dirty. You know, like
yeah. So,
of course,
so they are
just a grifter. You know,
they're told some of this stuff, and it's made out how wonderful these early people were that did all this stuff, but they're not actually given the details beyond if anyone says anything about this, it's apostate lies. But you're not allowed to research it yourself. You can only research their current literature that they make available. And periodically, every few years, they will take out of circulation some of their books and stuff. You know, you have to get rid of them.
Which, yeah, no, and that kind of control of information, I mean, you know, it exists. I have heard things about those end time predictions and how they have been explained away. Like, you know, just a guy making a calculation. We got it wrong. We got a new calculation. He forgot to carry the 3 or something, you know, like.
Yeah, they did briefly change it to 1915, I think.
Or that something did happen, but we didn't recognize what happened. Like it was an invisible.
Yeah, that's right. Jesus came back invisibly.
Invisibly, that's what you said, yeah.
But what they were actually predicting was the end of the world. It was Revelation. It was going to be these wars. All the other churches that are false churches, like Anglican Church or Catholic, whatever, they're all going to fall away. They're all going to be killed. It's going to be a paradise earth set up in 1914. But now they deny they ever said that. So when you show them, like I have shown some JWs the evidence, it's very hard for them to deal with it. But they can't leave because their friends and family are in. And if they decide, actually, I don't think this is true, they lose their friends and family.
Yeah, that's a big one. Like a really tough thing. I can imagine that even if you find these, you know, these documents, you know, leaving would just be, you know, the end of your world, basically. Or not the end, but it would certainly feel like you've lost everything.
But there's something called PMOs.
Well, I just say that would be something like, you know, we do, I'm sure we all have some kind of cognitive dissonance in there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that the mind just can't accept something, so it just puts blinders on itself. You know, like even if the governing body says don't do this, I mean, Google exists, right? They're not Amish. They could have access, but if going down that path means, you know, losing everything, then just don't go down that path. Or it would be logical to not seek it.
But there's something called a PMO, which stands for physically and mentally out. And there's actually an awful lot of JWs that go through the motion but don't believe it. And so they communicate online, but the reason they're not leaving is they don't want to lose everything.
Right, yeah.
So they're kind of doing the bare minimum to get by. And they have a hierarchy, and there are some that are elders that are PMO, and there's some working in the headquarters in America that are PMO. And so they keep leaking information out to the internet, but anonymously. And it's really difficult for the organization because they don't know where it's coming from. They know that they've got moles effectively there now. But the reason their logic is for being PMO is they want to bring the organization down. Because if the organization was, if you leave, that's fine, you can still see your friends and family, they would just leave quietly. But because they're being blackmailed, effectively, you're going to lose everything if you expose us or if you leave. They're like, there's a good number of them now that are just gradually gaining momentum. So I can't. There's going to be another big falling away soon, I think, because it's just so hard to keep denying the stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and when things are very well, when things and yeah, the things like that are clear, which becomes well, anyways. That's getting back to like what was I say if the like the Bible. Anyways, I was trying to make a link something with the link of they're trying to interpret the same scriptures, and I don't know if Jehovah's Witnesses. It seems like they're head honchos. I don't know what they're talking. What did you call
The
them at the
governing
top?
body, the top
The
governing
government
body.
body. It's almost like the Pope in that they're communing with God, or in some
It's
sense.
exactly the same.
Like that's
So God tells them um, this, what they need to know. Then they call it the spiritual food. I mean, take verses out of context. Their argument for being governing body, when you look at the Bible in context, completely falls down. But of course, JWs don't look at the Bible in context. They look at what they're told to look at and how to look at it.
but,
So it's
but is there scriptural backing to a governing body? Like, what did they?
no.
How do they excuse
I
that, or
I
how do they
understand
justify it?
their latest translation they've put in the phrase I understand, but in a normal Bible there isn't a phrase governing body, and their arguments when you look at the Bible don't add up at all. So they're like, oh no, in the early church there was a headquarters in Jerusalem, and all instructions came out of Jerusalem. That's not true because Paul was sent by Antioch to go on his missions and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and like it wasn't headquarters. There's just all these different churches all over the place, and there was absolutely not a headquarters as such. So yeah, it doesn't stack up.
Okay,
Yeah,
so really,
they've got so many logical problems.
okay, yeah. Okay, because that's as we were talking before, like if you were just to pick up a Bible and read it, would you come to the conclusion that there's a governing body that communes with
No,
God or that
you
has a
couldn't. You'd
connection
find out
some
that
kind
we're all. You can have a direct relationship with God, is what you'd find out. But for them, actually, it's God communicates with the governing body, and they'll let people down the way know what's being instructed.
interesting.
So, which is the same as like the Pope and the priests. It's like you have to go through them.
Like,
Effectively, they will tell you the rules. So if you think the Bible says one thing and the Pope or governing body say something else, you're wrong and they're right.
yeah, and I guess there is that kind of what do they call it? Like the piety. People be pious. Oh, maybe I should just.